Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, watching the stars drift past the main screen of the Un's Harbinger. The exploration ship had been traveling through empty space for 3 weeks now, mapping new star systems at the edge of human territory. It was quiet work, but Jake liked it that way. No politics, no war. Just him and his crew discovering what lay beyond the known galaxy. The bridge was calm in the evening shift. Most of his officers were focused on their tasks, running scans and updating star charts. The soft hum of the engines and the quiet beeping of computers filled the air. Jake took a sip of his coffee and watched the data streams flowing across his personal display. "Captain," came a voice from the communications station. Lisa Carter looked up from her console, her face showing confusion. "I'm picking up something." "Strange." Jake turned his chair toward her. Lisa had been his communications officer for 5 years, and she rarely got excited about random space noise. "What kind of strange?" "It's a signal, sir. Repeating pattern, but not like anything in our databases." Lisa adjusted her headset and frowned at her screens. "The frequency is weird, too. It's broadcasting on 17 different channels at once." "Pirates?" Jake asked. "Space raiders sometimes use strange signals to confuse merchant ships." "No, sir. This is too organized, too precise." Lisa played the signal through the bridge speakers. A series of musical tones filled the air, rising and falling in a pattern that almost sounded like a song. "It's been going for at least 6 hours. Maybe longer." Dr. Kevin Walsh looked up from his science station. The ship's xenolinguist was a thin man with gray hair who spent most of his time studying alien artifacts from dead civilizations. "May I hear that again?" Lisa replayed the signal. Kevin listened carefully, his eyes closed in concentration. After a moment, he opened them and walked over to Jake's chair. "Captain, that's not random noise. Those tones follow mathematical patterns, and look at this." Kevin pulled up a holographic display showing the signal structure. "See these sequences? They're prime numbers, then Fibonacci sequences, then pi, 250 decimal places." Jake felt his pulse quicken. Mathematics was the universal language. If someone was broadcasting math, they were trying to communicate. "Are you saying this is from aliens?" "I think so, sir, and there's more." Kevin highlighted different parts of the signal. "These sections here contain coordinates, star positions, distances, vectors. Someone is telling us where they are." Lisa was working at her station, running the signal through the ship's translation. "Computer, sir. I'm getting fragments of something. The computer thinks some of these patterns might be words." "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The main display showed scrolling text as the computer tried to decode the alien message. Most of it was gibberish, but occasionally real words appeared. "Help, danger, attack, science station, peaceful, no weapons, swarm coming." The bridge fell silent. Jake stared at the words, feeling the weight of the moment. Humanity had been searching for alien life for centuries. They had found ruins, artifacts, and dead worlds, but never a living civilization. Now, someone was calling for help. "Kevin, how sure are you about those coordinates?" Jake asked. The scientist checked his calculations again. "Very sure, sir. Now they're pointing to a star system about 4 light years from here. The signal strength suggests they're broadcasting with significant power." Jake stood up and walked to the navigation station. Chief Navigator Danny Cooper was already plotting a course. "Danny, what's at those coordinates?" "Unknown system, sir. Our long-range scans show a G-class star with several planets. We haven't done a detailed survey." Danny paused. "But, sir, there's something else. The signal includes warnings." "What kind of warnings?" Danny pulled up the partial translation. "They're describing their star system as extremely dangerous. High radiation, unstable gravity fields, toxic atmospheres. They seem to think only very advanced species could survive there." Jake nodded slowly. The aliens were being cautious, warning potential rescuers about the dangers they would face. It made sense. "If you were calling for help, you wouldn't want your rescuers to die trying to reach you, sir." Lisa interrupted. "I'm getting more of the message. The computer is learning. Their language patterns." New text appeared on the screen. "We are Volani. Research station under attack. Devox swarm destroys. All." We have no defense, broadcasting to all who can hear. Warning. Our system. Deadly to most life. Radiation extreme. Gravity unstable. Only attempt. Rescue. If technology advanced. We are scientists only. Peaceful species. Cannot fight Jake. Read the message twice. Volani sounded desperate, but still concerned about whoever might try to help them. They were warning potential rescuers about dangers while begging for aid. Kevin, what do you make of this Devox swarm? The xenolinguist was studying the linguistic patterns. Based on the context, sir, it sounds like a hostile force. Volani described them as destroyers who attack research stations. The word pattern suggests the Volani are terrified of them. Engineering Chief Amy Ross had been listening from her station. She was a practical woman who usually stayed out of political discussions, but now she looked worried. Captain, if these Volani are peaceful scientists, they might not have any weapons at all. If something is hunting them, she didn't need to finish. Jake understood. A peaceful species under attack by something called a swarm probably didn't have much time left. Options? Jake asked his crew. We could report this to Earth Command, suggested Lisa. Let them decide what to do. That would take weeks, Danny pointed out. The message to Earth, their decision, orders back to us. By then, these Volani could be dead. Could investigate, Amy suggested. Jump to the edge of their system. Take a look, see what we're dealing with. Jake considered this. The Harbinger was an exploration ship, not a warship. They had defensive weapons and strong shields, but they weren't designed for combat. If they ran into this Devox swarm, they might be in serious trouble. But the message kept repeating. Somewhere in space, scientists were calling for help. They had taken the time to warn potential rescuers about the dangers, even while under attack. That showed character. Kevin, how dangerous do you think this system really is? Jake asked. The scientists checked the data again. The radiation levels they describe would be challenging but not impossible for our ship. Our shielding should handle it. The gravity fields they mention as unstable might just be normal orbital mechanics to us. What do you mean? Sir, we don't know what kind of world these Volani come from. If they evolved on a low-gravity garden world with a stable star, then normal space conditions might seem extreme to them. What they call deadly might just be inconvenient to us. Jake nodded. Humans had evolved on a world with weather, earthquakes, radiation, predators, and a dozen other dangers. Earth had taught humanity to adapt, to overcome, to survive in hostile conditions. Maybe what seemed impossible to the Volani was just another day for humans. All right, Jake decided. We're going to take a look. But we go in careful and ready to run if things get bad. Sir, Lisa said quietly. Are you sure about this? We don't know anything about these aliens. This could be a trap. Jake looked at the message, still scrolling across the screen. The mathematical sequences, the careful warnings, the desperate plea for help. Lisa, if this is a trap, it's the most elaborate one in galactic history. These people took time to teach us their language and warn us about dangers while under attack. That doesn't sound like hostile behavior to me. He walked back to his command chair and sat down. Danny, plot a course for the Volani system. Amy, prepare the ship for potentially hazardous conditions. Kevin, keep working on that translation. I want to know everything we can before we get there. And Lisa, Jake added, prepare a response message. We'll tell them help is coming. The bridge crew went to work with practiced efficiency. Outside the ship, the stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that first contact between humans and aliens was about to begin with a rescue mission into what the galaxy considered a death trap. Jake stared at the coordinates on his screen and wondered what they would find when they arrived. The On's Harbinger dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Volani system. Immediately, warning alarms began sounding throughout the ship. The bridge lighting shifted to red as automated systems detected the dangerous conditions. Ahead, report Captain Jake Morrison called out, gripping his command chair as the ship shook slightly. Radiation levels are 3 times normal space background, Amy Ross announced from the engineering station. Solar output from their stars extremely high. Sir, I'm detecting gravitational anomalies throughout the system. On the main screen, The Volani star blazed with violent solar flares. Streams of charged particles whipped through space in deadly arcs. Could see why the aliens had warned them about the dangers. This wasn't a peaceful system like Earth's. This was a cosmic shooting gallery. "How are our shields holding up?" Jake asked. "Fine so far, sir," Amy replied. "But if we go deeper into the system, I'll need to reroute power from other systems to keep them strong." Chief Navigator Danny Cooper was studying his displays with interest rather than fear. "Captain, those gravity fields the Volani warned us about, they're just normal orbital mechanics around that gas giant. Nothing our computers can't handle." Jake nodded. As Kevin had suggested, what seemed deadly to the Volani was simply challenging to humans. "Take us in, Danny, slow and steady." The Harbinger moved deeper into the system, past planets that glowed with radiation and moons that sparkled with ice crystals in the deadly solar wind. "Contact," Lisa Carter announced from communications. "I'm picking up multiple ships near the fourth planet." The main screen zoomed in on a gas giant with swirling storms and a ring system. Orbiting the planet was something beautiful and terrible at the same time. A delicate structure made of what looked like crystal and metal hung in space. It's transparent, sections glowing with soft light. It was clearly alien, nothing like the angular ships humans built. But surrounding it were dozens of dark shapes, small, fast-moving craft that darted around the station like angry insects. Even from a distance, Jake could see weapons fire flickering between them. "That must be the Volani research station," Dr. Kevin Walsh said quietly. "And those other ships, ... The Devox swarm," Jake finished. He counted at least 50 enemy vessels, maybe more. They were attacking the station in coordinated waves, their weapons leaving scorch marks on the alien structure's surface. "Sir, incoming transmission," Lisa reported. "It's from the station. Put it through." The main screen flickered, then showed the interior of the alien station. Jake's first glimpse of an alien was nothing like he had expected. The being on screen was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. Its limbs looked fragile, and it moved with the careful grace of someone used to low gravity. "Unknown vessel," the alien said in heavily accented English. "You should not have come. This system will kill you. Please, save yourselves and go." Jake leaned forward in his chair. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Harbinger. We received your distress call. Are you the Volani?" The alien's eyes widened with surprise. "You came to help us? But the radiation, the gravity storms... ... How are you still alive?" "We're tougher than we look," Jake said with a slight smile. "What's your situation?" "I am Researcher Prime Zathera," the alien replied. "We have been under attack for 2 days. The Devox swarm found our research station. We have 43 scientists aboard, but no weapons, no way to fight back. They are slowly breaking through our shields." As if to emphasize the point, the station shook as enemy fire struck it. Zathera grabbed a support beam to steady herself, and Jake noticed how the impact seemed to hurt her more than it should. These aliens were clearly not built for violence or rough treatment. "How long can your shields hold?" Jake asked. "Perhaps 6 hours, maybe less. Captain Morrison, you must understand, we are not warriors. My people evolved on a peaceful world. With low gravity and stable weather, we are scientists and artists. We have never fought anyone." Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. They were humans from Earth, where everything from the weather to the wildlife tried to kill you. They had evolved from predators and prey, alike in a world that demanded strength, adaptability, and the will to fight for survival. "Zathera, we're going to get you out of there. Can you give me details about those attacking ships?" The alien scientist looked confused. "You intend to fight them?" "But there are so many, and you are only one ship." "Sometimes one is enough," Jake said. "Tell me about their tactics." Zathera seemed to struggle with the concept, but she tried. To explain, they attack in groups, overwhelming our defenses with numbers. Their ships are fast, but not heavily armored. They seem to expect surrender rather than resistance. Lieutenant Tony Baker, the ship's weapons officer, looked up from his console. "Captain, I'm analyzing their attack patterns. They're designed to intimidate rather than destroy quickly. They want the station intact, which means they're not used to fighting back, Jake concluded. Amy, how's our power distribution? I can give you full shields and weapons, sir. But in this radiation field, we'll be running hot. Jake nodded and opened a channel to the entire ship. All hands, this is the captain. We're about to engage a hostile force to rescue alien civilians. This is first contact with a peaceful species under attack. We represent all of humanity today. Let's show them what humans do when innocent people need help. He switched back to the alien frequency. Zathera, we're coming in. Keep your shields up and stay low. Captain Morrison, the alien said urgently, you do not understand. The Devox swarm has destroyed 12 research stations. They have never been defeated. Please, do not sacrifice yourselves for us. Oh. We're not planning to sacrifice ourselves. Jake replied, we're planning to win. The transmission ended, and Jake turned to his crew. Danny, take us in fast. Use the gas giant's gravity to mask our approach. Tony, target their outer ships first. Let's see how they react to someone shooting. Back. The Harbinger accelerated toward the battle, using the planet's gravity well to slingshot around and come up behind the swarm. The human ship was larger than the individual alien attackers, but smaller than their combined force. Incoming, Lisa announced. Some of them have spotted us. A dozen Devox ships broke off from attacking the station and moved to intercept the Harbinger. They were sleek, insect-like vessels that moved with the quick, aggressive motions of pack hunters. They're trying to surround us, Tony reported. Let them try, Jake said calmly. Fire when ready. Duh. The Harbinger's weapons opened up, sending streams of energy into the approaching swarm ships. The aliens had clearly not expected return fire. Their first ship exploded in a brilliant flash, then a second, then a third. The remaining Devox ships scattered, regrouping at a safer distance. Jake could almost feel their confusion through space. They were used to defenseless prey, not predators that fought back. Sir, Amy called from engineering. Their weapons are hitting us, but they're designed for breaking down shields slowly, not punching through armor. Our defenses are holding easily. Zathera was right, Kevin observed. They're not used to fighting their raiders who prey on peaceful species. 8 more Devox ships were turning away from the station now, focusing on the human vessel. Jake smiled grimly. Good. Every moment they spent fighting the Harbinger was time the Volani scientists had to strengthen their shields or evacuate. Danny, take us through their formation. Let's break up their coordination. The Harbinger plunged into the swarm like a shark through a school of fish. The Devox ships were fast, but they couldn't match human tactical thinking. Jake's crew had trained for combat scenarios their entire careers. They knew how to fight outnumbered and win. Tony's weapons found target after target. Amy rerouted power to keep shields strong and weapons firing. Danny flew the ship like he was born to it, using every trick of momentum and gravity to outmaneuver the enemy. But most importantly, they fought with the fury of a species that had clawed its way to the top of the food chain on a world that didn't give second chances. The Devox swarm, faced with something they had never encountered before, began to retreat. The Devox swarm was pulling back, but Jake Morrison knew they weren't giving up. The alien raiders were regrouping at the edge of the gas giant's rings, trying to understand what they had just encountered. Their prey had suddenly grown teeth. Status. Report, Jake called out as the Harbinger moved closer to the Volani research station. 15 enemy ships destroyed, Lieutenant Tony Baker reported from weapons. No damage to us except minor shield drain. They're keeping their distance now. They're scared, observed Dr. Kevin Walsh from his science station. Their attack patterns have completely changed. They went from aggressive hunters to cautious observers in minutes. On the main screen, Jake could see the crystalline beauty of the Volani station more clearly now. It was like looking at a work of art floating in space. Delicate spires and transparent domes caught the violent light of the system's star and turned it into something peaceful and beautiful. These aliens had built their home to reflect their nature. Captain Morrison came. Researcher primes Athera's voice through the communication system. What you have done is impossible. The Devox swarm has never been driven away from prey. How did you survive their attack? Jake smiled. We've had practice dealing with things that want to kill us. How many people do you have on that station? Researchers and support staff, but Captain, we cannot leave. This station contains decades of research data. If it is destroyed, the scientific knowledge of my people will be lost forever. Jake looked at the tactical display. The Devox ships were still out there, and more were arriving. Soon, they would have overwhelming numbers again. The station was too large to fit in the Harbinger's cargo bays, and too delicate to survive being towed through the dangerous radiation fields. Amy, Jake called to his engineering chief, can we extend our shields around that station? Amy Ross checked her readings carefully. For a short time, maybe. But sir, if we do that, we won't have enough power for weapons or engines. We'd be sitting ducks? What if we don't need weapons? Jake asked thoughtfully. His crew looked at him with confusion. Lieutenant Baker raised an eyebrow. Sir, how do we fight without weapons? Jake studied the tactical display again. The Devox ships were fast but lightly built. The gas giant below them had massive gravity and a ring system full of rocks and ice. The system's unstable star was throwing out radiation storms every few minutes. We don't fight them, Jake said slowly. We let the system fight them for us. Chief. Navigator Danny Cooper caught on first. You want to use the environment as a weapon? Exactly, Kenny. Plot a course that takes us through the ring system. Tony, forget the energy weapons. I want you to target those ice chunks in the rings. Use them as projectiles. Brilliant, Kevin said with growing excitement. The Devox ships are built for raiding peaceful civilizations. They've never had to deal with environmental warfare. Jake opened a channel to the Volani station. Zethra, we're going to move. You're stationed to a safer location. But first, we need to clear out your unwelcome guests. How? The alien scientist asked. There are over 60 ships now. More arrive every few minutes. Trust us, Jake replied. We're about to show them why attacking humans is a bad idea. The Harbinger moved away from the station, heading toward the dense part of the gas giant's ring system, as Jake had hoped. The Devox swarm followed them, sensing an opportunity to attack the isolated human ship. They're taking the bait, Lisa Carter reported from communications. All ships are moving to intercept us. Good, Danny. Take us into the rings. Nice and slow. Let them think they have us trapped. The human ship entered the ring system, surrounded by chunks of ice and rock ranging from pebbles to asteroids. The Devox ships followed in a loose formation, confident that they had finally cornered their prey. Now, Jake said calmly. Tony Baker's fingers flew over his weapons console. Instead of targeting the enemy ships, he fired at the largest ice chunks in the rings around them. Massive pieces of frozen water, some as big as buildings, began moving under the impact of the Harbinger's weapons. The physics were simple, but deadly. In zero gravity, every action had an equal and opposite reaction. It started moving. When it hit another chunk, that one started moving too. Within seconds, the entire ring section around them was in motion. The Devox ships found themselves in the middle of a three-dimensional storm of ice and rock, moving at incredible speeds. Their fast, lightly armored vessels were perfect for chasing down defenseless prey, but they couldn't handle being hit by chunks of ice the size of cars. Solar storm incoming, Amy announced from engineering. Big one. Jake checked his displays. A massive wave of radiation was rolling out from the systems. Unstable star, the kind of energy burst that could fry unshielded electronics. All power to shields. Ride it out. The Harbinger's heavy shielding, designed for exploration in dangerous space, easily handled the radiation storm. But the Devox ships, built for speed rather than protection, were caught in the open as the energy wave hit them. Half the swarm's remaining ships went dark as their systems overloaded. The others scattered, trying to escape the ring system and the deadly combination of flying ice and radiation. They're running, Tony reported with satisfaction. But Jake wasn't done yet. Danny, take us back to the station. Let me extend our shields. Around it, we're going to move the whole thing. Sir Amy protested. If we shield the station, we won't have power for much else. We won't need power for weapons, Jake said. We're going to let momentum do the work. The Harbinger positioned itself next to the Volani research station and extended its shields to cover the delicate alien structure. Then Danny began a careful series of maneuvers, using the gas giant's gravity to build up speed. What are you doing? Zethara's voice came through the communications system. Moving your station to a safer orbit, Jake replied. Hang on, this might feel rough to you. Using gravitational physics and careful thrust application, Danny began moving the combined mass of ship and station toward a more distant orbit. To humans, the acceleration was barely noticeable, but Jake could hear Zathara and her people struggling. With forces their fragile bodies weren't designed to handle. I'm sorry about the rough ride, Jake said. We'll have you somewhere safe in a few minutes. The remaining Devox ships tried to intercept them, but they were out of position and still, recovering from the radiation storm. By the time they reorganized, the Harbinger had moved the Volani station to a stable orbit behind one of the gas giant's moons, protected from both the swarm and the worst of the system's radiation. How did you do that? Zathara asked weakly. Once they had stopped moving, we used the very dangers of our system as weapons against our enemies. Jake settled back in his command chair, feeling satisfied. We learned a long time ago that any environment can be survived if you understand how to work with it instead of against it. But the radiation levels, the gravity fields, the debris impacts, the alien scientists said in amazement. These conditions should have killed you. Dr. Kevin Walsh stepped forward to answer. Researcher Prime, may I ask what your homeworld is like? Kethva is a beautiful world, Zethara replied. Stable weather, low gravity, 3 peaceful suns that provide steady light and warmth, no dangerous animals, no natural disasters. It is a world of gardens and learning. Kevin nodded. Our world is very different. Earth has violent weather, dangerous radiation from our sun, high gravity, and predators that hunt other intelligent species. We learn to survive by adapting to danger, not avoiding it. You mean, Zathara said slowly, that you come from what we would call a death world? We call it home, Jake replied simply. The alien was quiet for a long moment when she spoke. Again, her voice was filled with wonder.
Oh.
No species in the galactic community comes from such a world. We thought it was impossible for intelligence to evolve under such conditions. Maybe that's why the Devox swarm has been so successful, Jake suggested. They've been preying on peaceful species who never learned to fight back. Captain Morrison, Zathara said formally, you have saved not just our lives, but our life's work. How can we repay such a debt? Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. They had just made first contact with an alien species by saving them from extinction. It was the kind of moment that would be remembered in history books. Just tell us about yourselves, he said. We've been looking for friends among the stars for a long time. 2 hours after the battle, Captain Jake Morrison was getting his first real look at the inside of an alien research station. The Volani had insisted on welcoming their rescuers aboard despite their injuries and exhaustion. Walking through the crystalline corridors was like moving through a living work of art. The walls were transparent, showing the stars and the gas giant beyond. Soft lighting came from panels that seemed to grow from the floor and ceiling like plants. Everything was curved and flowing, designed for beings who had never known violence or harsh conditions. Please, be very careful, warned junior researcher Kethman, as she led Jake and Dr. Kevin Walsh through the station. Our floors are designed for low-gravity movement. Your heavy footsteps might crack them. Jake looked down at his boots, then at the delicate surface beneath them. The aliens had built their station like they built their lives, beautiful, peaceful, and fragile. One wrong step from a human could damage something it had taken them years to create. I'm sorry, Jake said, trying to walk more gently. We're not used to being around such delicate construction. It is not your fault, Kethman replied kindly. We simply never imagined meeting beings from such a harsh world. Your bones are so dense, your muscles so strong. On our world you would be considered giants. They entered what appeared to be the station's medical bay. where several Volani scientists were being treated for injuries from the battle. Jake was shocked to see how hurt they were. What had seemed like minor shaking during the fight had apparently been traumatic for these fragile beings. Researcher Prime Zathera was lying on what looked like a bed made of soft light. Her pale blue skin was even paler now, and she moved carefully as she turned to greet them. "Captain Morrison," she said weakly, "thank you for visiting us. I apologize for my condition. The acceleration forces during our escape were quite severe." Frowned. The acceleration forces. "But we barely pulled 2 gravities during the move." 2 gravities is more than our bodies are designed to handle, Zathera explained. "Our world has only 0.7 Earth gravity. What seems normal to you can injure us badly." Dr. Walsh pulled out his medical scanner and looked at it with concern. "Captain, their bone density is about 30% of human normal. Their cardiovascular systems are designed for much lower stress. What we experienced as mild discomfort during the battle, they experienced as serious trauma." Jake felt a wave of guilt. He had thought he was being gentle with the alien station. Hadn't realized that even his careful movements were potentially harmful to these people. "Is there anything we can do to help?" he asked. "Your ship's medical officer has already been very helpful," Zathera replied. "Dr. Patricia Green understood our biology quickly and provided treatments that our own medicine could not." As if summoned by her name, Patricia Green entered the medical bay carrying a small device Jake didn't recognize. Now, the ship's doctor was a practical woman who approached every problem with calm efficiency. "Captain," she said, "I've been working with the Volani medical staff. Their healing techniques are amazing, but they're designed for their low-stress environment. They've never had to deal with trauma injuries because their world doesn't produce them." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. Patricia gestured to one of the injured aliens. "This researcher has what we would call a minor bruise from being thrown against a wall during the battle. But their medical knowledge doesn't include treatments for impact injuries, because they never experience impacts on their world, so you taught them," Kevin asked. "They taught me to," Patricia replied with a smile. "Their healing technology can repair cellular damage in ways we never imagined. But they needed to learn about trauma medicine because their world never required it." Jake nodded slowly. It was becoming clear that the rescue had been more than just saving lives. It was the beginning of an exchange between 2 completely different types of species. "Captain," came Lisa Carter's voice through his communicator, "we're getting signals from multiple ships entering the system. Big ones." Jake's hand moved instinctively toward his weapon. "More Devox ships?" "No, sir. These are broadcasting human identification codes. It's the cavalry." Relief flooded through Jake as he looked at Zathera. "Our people received the distress signals we sent out. Help has arrived." Within an hour, 2 more human ships had arrived in the system. The destroyer Un's Defender, commanded by Commander Helen Price, and the heavy cruiser Un's Titan under Captain Alex Turner. Both were warships, heavily armed and designed for combat. Jake met with the other captains in the Harbinger's conference room while the Volani watched through their communication systems. Helen Price was a veteran officer with short gray hair and the no-nonsense attitude of someone who had fought in 3 different wars. Alex Turner was younger, but equally experienced with the calm confidence of a born leader. "Jake," Helen said as she reviewed the tactical reports, "you did good work here, but we're picking up long-range sensor contacts. More Devox ships are coming." "How many?" Jake asked. "At least 200, Alex replied grimly. "It looks like you hurt them badly enough that they're bringing everything they have." Jake felt his stomach drop. The Harbinger had handled 50 enemy ships, but 200 was a different matter entirely. Even with 3 human ships, they would be outnumbered more than 60 to 1. "We need to evacuate the station," Helen suggested. "Get the aliens out of here before the main force arrives." "No," came Zathera's voice through the communication system. "We cannot leave our research. This station contains the collected scientific knowledge of 12 research expeditions. If it is lost, decades of discovery will die with it." Jake looked at his fellow captains. "How long do we have?" 6 hours, maybe 8, Alex estimated. "But Jake, even if we fight, we can't protect the station and win against those numbers." "Maybe we don't have to win," Jake said thoughtfully. "Maybe we just have to convince them that attacking humans isn't worth the cost." Helen raised an eyebrow. Explain. Jake brought up the tactical display showing the system's dangerous conditions. The Devox swarm is used to easy prey. They attack peaceful species who surrender quickly. But humans don't surrender, and we've learned to use hostile environments as weapons. You want to turn this entire system into a battlefield, Alex said with growing understanding. Exactly. Use the radiation storms, the gravity wells, the asteroid fields. Make them fight us on our terms instead of theirs. That's insane, Helen said, but she was smiling as she said it. The radiation alone would kill most species. The gravity fields would tear apart ships not designed for it. But we're not most species, Jake pointed out. We're humans. We're used to fighting in impossible conditions. Dr. Walsh, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. Captain, I've been analyzing the Devox communication patterns. Not just Devox. Raiders. They're a hive mind species. They share information instantly across their entire fleet. What does that mean? Helen asked. It means that if we hurt them badly enough here, every Devox ship in the galaxy will know about it. They'll know that humans are dangerous prey, not easy targets. Jake nodded. So we're not just fighting for this station. We're fighting to protect every peaceful species the Devox might attack in the future. Alex leaned back in his chair. Pressure there. There's something else, Patricia Green said as she entered the conference room. I've been talking with the Volani medical staff. We're not the only peaceful species out there. There's something called the Galactic community. Dozens of species who share scientific knowledge but have no military capabilities. Have been hunting them for generations, Zethera confirmed through the communication system, destroying research stations, enslaving populations, consuming entire civilizations. The community has no defense against them. Jake looked around the table at his fellow officers. So what do you think? We run? Or do we show the galaxy what humans do when innocent people are in danger? Helen Price was the first to answer. I didn't join the Navy to run from bullies. Alex Turner nodded agreement. My crew didn't come this far to abandon scientists to raiders. Jake smiled grimly. Then let's prepare for the fight of our lives. Let's make sure the Devox swarm learns why you don't threaten species under human protection. Outside the conference room, Zethera listened to the humans planning their impossible battle and began to understand that her people had encountered something unique in the galaxy. Not just a species that could survive in dangerous conditions, but one that would risk everything to protect strangers. For the first time since the attacks began, she felt hope. The Devox swarm arrived like a dark cloud blotting out the stars. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the bridge of the UN's Harbinger as hundreds of enemy ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. They're insect-like. Forms moved in perfect coordination, a single mind controlling hundreds of bodies. Final count is 237 ships, reported Lieutenant Tony Baker from the weapons station. They're forming attack formations. 3 human ships against over 200. Commander Helen Price's voice came through the communication system from the UN's Defender. I've seen better odds. We've fought worse, Captain Alex Turner replied from the UN's Titan. At least this time we know what we're up against. Jake opened a channel to the Volani research station, now hidden behind one of the gas giant's moons. Zethera, are your people ready? As ready as we can be? Captain Morrison, the alien scientist replied. Our shields are at maximum, and we have moved all personnel to the most protected areas of the station. But I must ask again, why are you doing this? You could escape easily. Why risk your lives for strangers? Jake looked around his bridge at his crew. Lisa Carter at communications, Danny Cooper at navigation, Amy Ross at engineering, Dr. Kevin Walsh at his science station. They had all volunteered to stay and fight, even though retreat was possible. Because that's what humans do, Jake said. Simply, we protect people who can't protect themselves. The Devox fleet began moving deeper into the system, their formation tight and disciplined. But as they approached the inner planets, Jake's plan began to unfold. Now he ordered all 3 human ships scattered in different directions, using the system's dangerous conditions to their advantage. The Harbinger dove toward the radiation-soaked inner planets. The Defender headed for the asteroid belt, and the Titan positioned itself near the unstable star. The Devox swarm hesitated, confused by the unexpected separation. They were used to prey that huddled together in fear. Dead. The humans had split up and moved toward the most dangerous parts of the system. "They're taking the bait," Alex Turner reported. "The main force is following me toward the star." "Smaller groups are chasing Helen and us," Jake confirmed, "just like we planned." The battle began in 3 different locations simultaneously. Near the star, the Titan used solar radiation storms as cover, appearing and disappearing in bursts of deadly energy that blinded Devox sensors. The heavy cruiser's powerful weapons picked off enemy ships one by one while they struggled to track their target through the cosmic interference. In the asteroid belt, the Defender played a deadly game of hide-and-seek among the rocky debris. Commander Price used her ship's smaller size to dart between asteroids, luring Devox ships into collisions with the floating rocks. Her crew had grown up on a world where everything tried to kill them, and navigating a dangerous obstacle course was second nature. Meanwhile, the Harbinger led its pursuers on a chase through the inner system's radiation fields. The human ship's heavy shielding let it operate in conditions that slowly cooked the lightly protected Devox vessels. "Their coordination is breaking down," Dr. Walsh observed as he monitored enemy communications. "The hive mind is having trouble processing 3 separate battles in different environments." Jake smiled grimly. "That's the point. They're used to overwhelming single targets, not fighting a distributed battle." As the fight continued, the Devox swarm began to realize they were facing something unprecedented. Their prey was not only fighting back, but doing so in conditions that should have been impossible to survive. Every tactical advantage they normally possessed was being turned against them. "Jake," Helen's voice crackled through the communication system. "I've got a problem. They're adapting faster than expected." On the tactical display, Jake could see Devox ships changing their attack patterns. Instead of chasing individual human vessels, they were beginning to work together across all 3 battle zones. "Alex, can you pull some heat off Helen?" Jake asked. "Already on it," the Titan's captain replied. His heavy cruiser emerged from behind the star, trailing a massive solar flare that he had somehow captured in his ship's magnetic field. The deadly stream of plasma swept across a dozen Devox ships, overwhelming their shields instantly. But the enemy adapted to that too. Within minutes, they had reorganized into a formation that kept them clear of the environmental hazards while still maintaining pressure on the human ships. "These things learn fast," Amy Ross warned from engineering. "Our tricks are only going to work once." Jake was about to respond when new contacts appeared on his sensors. More ships were entering the system, but these weren't Devox reinforcements. Captain Lisa announced with excitement, "I'm receiving transmissions from the new arrivals. They're from the Galactic community." On the main screen, Jake saw a collection of ships unlike anything he had ever imagined. Looked like living creatures. Others were geometric shapes that seemed to fold space around them. All were clearly built by species that had never known war. "Human vessels," came a new voice through the communication system. "This is Science Coordinator Veltar. Of the Healer's Gift. We received word of your battle and have come to assist." "Veltar, this is Captain Morrison. I need to get out of here. Your ships aren't built for combat." "You're correct," the alien replied calmly. "But we have something the Devox swarm has never encountered before, friends, who will fight for us." Jake watched in amazement as the peaceful alien ships took defensive positions around the Volani research station. They couldn't fight, but they could bear witness. For the first time in galactic history, the prey species were not running or hiding. They were standing together. The effect on the Devox swarm was immediate and devastating. The hive mind evolved. To hunt isolated and terrified prey couldn't process what it was seeing. Their entire strategy was based on fear and desperation, but the aliens they had come to hunt were showing courage and unity instead. "They're breaking off," Tony reported. With astonishment, "The entire swarm is retreating." Jake could hardly believe it. The Devox ships were pulling back from all 3 battle zones, their formation falling apart as the hive mind struggled to understand this new reality. "Veltar, why did they run?" Jake asked. "We were barely holding them off." "Captain Morrison, The Devox swarm has spent generations hunting species who were alone and afraid. Today, they discovered that the galaxy has changed. The prey species now have protectors, and those protectors fight with a fury they cannot match. Over the next few hours, as the last of the enemy ships fled the system, Jake found himself in the strangest first contact meeting in human history. The conference room of the Harbinger was filled with holographic projections of dozens of different alien species, all members of the galactic community. "We have been waiting for someone like you for a very long time," Science Coordinator Veltar explained. His species looked like tall, graceful birds with colorful feathers and large, intelligent eyes. "The community has always shared scientific knowledge freely, but we have never been able to defend it." Researcher Prime Zathera, still recovering from her injuries, spoke from her medical bed. "Captain Morrison, what your species did today will be remembered forever. You did not just save our research station, you showed the entire galaxy that peaceful species no longer have to face predators alone." Dr. Walsh leaned forward with interest. "What exactly are you proposing?" "An alliance," Veltar replied. "The community offers our scientific advances, our peaceful technologies, our knowledge of the galaxy. In return, humanity provides what we cannot, the ability to fight those who would destroy us." Jake looked around the room at his fellow captains. Helen Price was nodding slowly, while Alex Turner was already studying star charts showing community territory. "It's not just about protection," Zathera added. "Your people think differently than we do. Where we see impossible problems, you see challenges to overcome. Where we see deadly environments, you see new frontiers to explore. And where you see scientific puzzles," Jake replied, "we see practical applications. I think this partnership could benefit everyone." 6 months later, Jake stood on the observation deck of the new Joint Research Station orbiting Earth, through the transparent walls. He could see human and alien scientists working together on projects that neither species could have completed. Alone, Dr. Walsh approached, carrying a tablet showing their latest discovery. "Jake, you need to see this. The Volani have helped us develop a new type of shield that can protect against almost any environmental hazard. And we've taught them how to build structures that can survive in dangerous conditions." "What about the Devox swarm?" Jake asked. Walsh replied with satisfaction. "Word of our victory has spread throughout their territory. They're avoiding any system with community presence now. Some of their smaller groups have even asked for peace talks." Jake nodded, watching as a human. Engineer and a Volani scientist collaborated on a new type of exploration vessel. The ship combined alien elegance with human durability, designed to explore the dangerous regions of space that both species had previously avoided. "You know what the best part is?" Jake said to his friend. "What's that?" "We're not just protecting them anymore, we're exploring together. Galaxy just got a lot more interesting."